Hi everyone, and welcome to my next installment of the series of videos that I'm doing trying to understand Double Masters a little bit better. And today we're actually not going to talk about Double Masters 2022, but we're actually going to try to learn some lessons from ye old Double Masters original edition, trying to learn some lessons about what did well over the last couple of years, what didn't, and maybe help you make some decisions about singles from the new set. So let's get into it. I've done a deep dive on some data. I pulled the market prices for a bunch of Double Masters original version cards from here in July 2022, and then I looked back into time, January 1st, 2021. I selected this time. It was about 6 months after the release of the first set. And actually, it was about the bottom of the prices for pretty much all these cards. It was about as cheap as they ever got. It was right around January, give or take a month. The place I actually want to start with all of you is to take a look at what's happened to the prices of these cards. These are all those borderless cards, the showcase borderless, whatever you want to call them, the box topper cards, the box toppers. And these cards have done very well. So what have we got? We got the market price, the foil market price. One of the things I was actually kind of looking to see if there's anything interesting going on was the foil premium. How much of a percent boost do you get from foiling the card? For a lot of these box toppers, not much. The bump is pretty modest. The big difference here was Force of Will. We all knew that for a while. But here's what you probably want to know, right? Okay, which of these cards would have been good to buy back in January? And honestly, it looks like almost all of them. But some of them more than others. So what you're going to see over here in these nice columns here are the gain values. How much dollar-wise did they gain? Non-foil and foil, as you can see. And then here's it represented as a percent gain over the January 1st price. So Mana Crypt, this good old showcase Mana Crypt, there it is, boom. You look at this market price here, 113 bucks, and you go, man, I wish I would have bought like 10 of those, maybe 100 of them. Well, yeah, you and me both, buddy. And that goes down the list here, honestly, of all these heavy hitters, they've done really well. Now, I have sorted this list by the cards that had the biggest gains to them. And I think there's something instructive here, because whereas we go down this list, you will see some patterns for cards that just didn't do all that well. And I've highlighted in this orange highlight basically a bunch of modern cards. These are modern staples. Blood Moon, Dark Confidant, Thoughtseize, and so on. You'll notice are not the big heavy hitters. Mana Crypt is not that's a commander card. Now Force of Will, you can call it a legacy card, but it's a commander card too. Doubling Season, all this stuff here, what's driving the demand on this stuff? It ain't modern. Here are your modern legal stuff, and it did not do so well. And you will even see some that eroded in price over this time period. Meddling Mage, classic example. Brainstorm too. Brainstorm has just gotten so many treatments, right? It's just a variant. You can get Brainstorms out of a million different versions now. One thing that surprised me, I suspected the Urza Tron lands would have done better than they did. But they just didn't do much. They did not do much at all. And I think, the modern demand just isn't there. So what do we learn from this? Well, for these flashy variants, right, which ones are doing well? Honestly, the ones that are doing well are the ones that were already expensive. They had big percent gains. Look at this stuff. Some of these things are doubling, tripling in price. These were the ones that were already the desirable ones. And they were desirable for commander purposes primarily. Now, I even plotted this. We can look at price gain versus what their original buy price was. I think probably better is the percent gain, and it's a little messier, but I think the pattern is pretty clear here. The higher priced cards tended to have bigger percentage gains. If you went in and bought a bunch of the kind of cheapo ones, the ones that really weren't very expensive to begin with, you didn't see much growth. And that kind of makes sense. The ones that started out as higher prices, those are the ones people want, people. You're not going to have a huge demand for stuff like the Academy Ruins. Even this, it's cool. Guys, it's cool. And it did all right. It did pretty well. turns of growth. But some of the cards that did extraordinarily well, stuff like Lightning Greaves, Cyclonic Rift. There's kind of lesson number one. I mean, for these variants, right? These are the variant versions. They're the super fancy versions. Don't try to go and speculate on, ooh, these ones are the cheap ones. I'm going to go in for the ones that I only have to spend like $7 on. Yeah, you could have bought a whole bunch of Goblin Guides at $7 and they'd still be about $7. All right, let's take a look at the regular stuff. The rest of the set, all of this other stuff, did the same treatment. I'm not going to go through all of it. There's so many cards on this list. It's bananas. So I've highlighted things in a lot of different colors. I'll share with you what they're all about, and I think it's instructive. Once again, topping out the top of our list has huge percent gains and huge dollar gains. These are those high dollar cards, people. They were the desirable ones. Now I've chosen to highlight in yellow the sort of high dollar, high performing cards here that were not given that box topper treatment. And look at the ones that are doing well, right? Most of them should not come as a surprise. These are, these are commander cards. The exception here being engineered explosives. It spiked for some constructed reasons. Mystic Gate and Sunken Ruins as well seem to be spiking for constructed reasons, I guess. But that's, I think, primarily because the supply is pretty low, and certainly it's just specific ones of those filter lands. And I'm going to put this out here. This is really important. Mystic Gate and Sunken Ruins dodged reprints. If you go down to the bottom of this list, you'll start to see cards that had losses, that have eroded in price. All these things marked in this kind of pink, they got reprinted. All of those enemy-colored filter lands, they all got a reprint in a Commander Precon. And now they're not doing hot. So are all these other pink ones. And then I've marked in orange once again. These are sort of your just like modern staples. Karn Liberated eroded in price. It didn't get reprinted. It's just not doing very well. So a lot of these cards here that didn't gain price much at all, I mean, these are cards that either are sort of your modern cards, they started out as your low dollar cards, or they got reprints. And so I think the pattern here holds once again. The cards that really appreciated in value quite a lot. If we look through a lot of these cards, they were not cheap by and large to start with. The exceptions to those rules, there are some cheap cards on this list. I'm looking at Time Sieve, Mazirek, Conjurer's Closet. What do you notice about these cards? These cards primarily are commander cards. Here we have cards like Hammer of Nazan, Land Tax. I mean, I'm not surprised to see these on the list. Even cards like Maze of Ith. This card was only $7 back in 18 months ago, and it has jumped up quite a bit. So, what does this mean for us as you eyeball 2022 and you're looking at what cards ought I buy? The cards, the heavy hitters, guys. Those top end cards, the Mana Crypts, the Doubling Seasons of 2022. The ones that are going to be at the very top, they'll bottom out within a couple of months of the set, and then they're going to go back up. I mean, they just are. Mana Vault, I imagine, is what's going to happen to that. I don't really know what's going to happen to Imperial Seal. That card's kind of weird. But all the other sort of, highlighted cards, think your Dockside Extortionist, they're going to behave just like all these cards behaved. Very few cards on the high price list that were highly priced in January didn't have pretty substantial gains over the time period. That's just how these things happen. They're the high demand cards, people. Sword of Feast and Famine, Sword of Fire and Ice. They're good. People are going to want them, and they're going to creep right back up. They may not post monster gains. These ones only were getting about 20%, but they still crept up in price. As always, people, it's volatile. I'll show you some of the graphs here. Here's price gain as percentage versus the market price. yeah, they're all over the place. Singles are always going to be volatile, especially ones like this. These are not special treatments. They get reprinted. If they go out of favor in a constructed format, they're going to wobble in price a lot. It's all over the map. You can be much more confident in these sort of special high-tier variants. These are our box toppers. They're much more consistent. The regular rares and mythics, folks, are going to be all over the map. You never know what's going to happen. When are they going to reprint? Take any of these cards that's on the list. If they just randomly reprint any of these cards here, I'm looking at you, Mystic Gate, it's not going to be $25 anymore. It just won't be. So take all this with a grain of salt. As always, I am not giving you any financial advice here. Please, God help you, do not take anything that I've said here and try to go and make money on it. That is probably a bad call. But hopefully this will give you some data to make some more informed choices as you go around and maybe pick up some cards for your collection.